Zepbound news, increase in divorce and separation rate from taking Zepbound. A new study, or new article, I should say, that came out from the New York Times that I want to do a deep dive in, honey. We got a thorough deep dive here of a ton of stuff that we're going to talk about. And if we don't know each other, welcome. I'm Elizabeth, Countess of Shopping. Lost over 103 pounds the last 2 years of being on Zepbound and Mounjaro. And I love talking about GLP-1 medication. I'm going to lump our Wegovy friends into this. And so feel free to share this video. I will also link down below in the comments the New York Times article. So if you want to read it, there's studies that are cited in that article. It was brilliantly written. And so that's linked down below. Just click the ... more reference. And when I talk about other helpful tools, those will be linked in the description link as well. Let's dive in. So in the article, it starts off from New York Times. It talks about how there was a bariatric study done, a 2018 bariatric study, that you're more likely to divorce or get separated with bariatric surgery. I found that fascinating. Do you guys find this? This whole topic is fascinating too, by the way, about marriages ending, and like that's crazy. And so being a product of a divorced home, for me, I'm always looking at things of I want to have and have been in a healthy marriage for decades now. And I'm always looking for new things, of course, to keep my marriage strong. So when I saw this article, and particularly this study, it caught my attention because while bariatric surgery is not the same as GLP-1 medication, I do think we can glean a lot from people who have had bariatric surgery because there are a lot of similarities with that. And in the New York Times article, it's following this particular couple. There's other examples, but there's this one particular couple that they talk about how their marriage from a woman or a partner who is really voluptuous than to not be, and what that does for a marriage or a partnership with it as well. And so one of the things that I really honed in on this article was therapy. For me, being in therapy has been one of the best things I've done. I'm on the highest dose, Zepbound, 15 milligrams. And so talking through some of these changes of my body's different, like literally my body's different, but I can do different stuff. I'm able to go horseback riding. I could not before because I would have crushed the horse, literally. And so being able to be physically active. What happens if you have a partner who does not want to be physically active? Or I wear skirt. This was from the summer. I lost more weight, or I feel like I look significantly different than I did this summer, even compared to that. And so doing different things, thinking different things, going different places, processing all of that, I needed some outside help. I needed someone who was higher than my pay grade. And so getting a really good therapist for me has been very, very beneficial. And they talk about this in the New York Times article, but there was a study done. It was a small study done and then a large study. The small study that was done shared that men in the small study had a decreased interest in the physical side of a relationship, more so than women did. And that in a large study, it was in a 2024 trial, so it was much larger than the small study, of course, and it was an increased drive in vavoom. And children are watching, so I'm going to be very cautious with my words because I don't, kids are watching, I just want to, you have my word in this video, I'll keep it PG. So an increased drive in vavoom was from this. Now, from my own experience, strength, and hope, I question, was the increase in the drive because people feel more comfortable in their skin, right? Like if you're feeling continuously self-conscious, I'll use my I statements. I have felt continuously so self-conscious of being morbidly obese, of like my thighs are rubbing together. I've got jelly rolls. I've like, you know what I mean? Like I've got a lot of extra weight. Then those insecurities are literally melting away. I could see why for people that there's an increased drive in that. Also, I could also see from the study, and it was, by the way, it was done by Diabetes, Obesity, and Metabolism was the one who did that study, and it's linked down in the description link below, as is all my free resources, like my free Zepbound tracker on countessofshopping.com and a free meal plan on countessofshopping.com. That's all linked down below. But this study of the increased drive, I think partially from, and they didn't deep dive into this particular part of the study, but the article, the New York Times article, does go into about being physically more active. I can physically be more active, right? Like literally going horseback riding, I can go on like a 2-hour trail ride, and that's physically laborious, right? that does play a piece into it, right? If you're having more of a drive for things to physically be able to do it, but also just the comfortableness. Like I'm way more comfortable with wearing a bathing suit. I still wear a lot of cover-ups, and in general, for me, I've always been more so modest, even having babies. I definitely let my nurses know I'm like, I'm modest. I will be wearing a robe. I'll be wearing like that's just kind of who I am. And so personal preference, you do you, but that's for me. But I think that that's part of it too, is that physically able to, but also the comfortability of there's this internal change for me, and I know for thousands of you, because I have the blessing of talking to thousands of you on a daily basis, of that there's this physical change that happens externally, but then how do you account for that? There is an accounting that does happen for people who are on these medications longer than just a couple of months. And I know some people come on, but I know probably if you're watching this, you probably have intentions to be on till a certain goal, or for me, I'm going to be on for life. And whenever I say that, there's a lot of people that blows them away, but I'm like, no, like you'd be on blood pressure medication probably, or genetic diseases for the rest of your life. Why would I not be on this? For me. You do you, but that's me. So yes, when people are like, are you gonna be on it for life? Yes, probably. With the information I have now. It goes into talking about increasing your love odds, or the physicality of relationships, is more of a looseness, and they said looseness around silent expectations of coupledom is what New York Times writer wrote. That there's these silent expectations. It's more fluid, meaning there's not heavy expectations on it, and there is a looseness around it. And I really do feel like for my relationship with my hot husband, that he has been very generous, and I feel like hopefully I've been the same way too, of like, there's not these rigid expectations of we're going to do thus and such 2 times a week, or we're going to do X, Y, and Z 5 times, or whatever. Like there's not these hard and fast rules that we've, wearing life like a loose garment, our relationship, of that there's not these silent expectations of, oh, I just made you a whole thing of my family's lasagna that has been in my family for 5 generations. You're going to eat the whole plate full. Like we don't do that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like there's not these, or like you just had 2 bites of that and I paid for this very expensive meal. Like I've heard all these stories and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful I have a very accepting partner that doesn't have hard rules. But what these studies are finding is that some people have gone into these relationships, into their marriages, not relationships, but like marriages, a legal union together, and that they're finding that as they're changing, their partners are not enjoying or accepting that, which is why I go back to having a really good therapist to help process all that stuff, so you don't have to, there's no shame in that game. But increasing the odds of people who fared better with being on weight loss is where they have a relationship of not having these silent expectations to do things. One of the other things in this article, it talks about how our looks change. I mean, my husband said last night, he's like, we were at Mission Barbecue. Oh, it was so good. I was having such a high protein dinner. It was so good. And then I lifted afterwards. It was awesome. And my husband goes, babe, my son said something, and my husband goes, babe, you look at least 10 years younger, maybe 7, maybe 10's generous, but maybe 7. And he was being sweet about it. And I do, I'm like, I really do look substantially younger. When I had my son, I looked 10 years older than I do now. And when he was a baby and into like toddler years. So people in the article, it was talking about, do people look gaunt, or do they look hot, for people's interpretation of it? Like, do you find your partner more attractive by being thinner, or accepting on it? And I think that this poses questions to have a conversation with your partner on it. For me, definitely it has. I'm like, well, what do you think? And my husband is amazing because was accepting when I was 103 pounds more than I am now. But also is loving this new lifestyle with me because I'm able to be active. I'm able to do things. I'm not tired all the time. I mean, except on shot. 24 to 36 hours after my shot, I'm still tired in that component. A girl needs a day of rest, of course. But does your partner interpret it of looking gaunt or hot, right? And so I feel like this is interesting. I wish I had had these conversations before starting the medication. But y'all, when I first started, I didn't think it was going to work for me. So I was very skeptical. I'm like, so many things have failed. I've tried every diet known to man, including cabbage soup diets and all these crazy things. Gross. So I didn't think that this was going to work for me. So why would I have this conversation of, babe, do you think when I get thinner, is that going to make a difference? And then also having loose skin. I do. My stomach looks like dough, and my legs, my thighs look like dough. And I'm looking at plastic surgeons to help fix those. But in the interim, kind of navigating that's the way my body is. I'm super loving and accepting also of that too, of like, that's what Spanx are for. That's what compression garments are for. Okay, okay. And you can look on my Amazon shopping list down below for some of my favorites. In the article, it goes on to talk about losing muscle mass. Losing muscle mass for someone was, it's not scientifically proven at all, but it was the couple's theory was that the men had lost testosterone because of muscle mass being depleted. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know. I'm throwing that out there because it was in the article and I thought it was interesting, but there's no scientific evidence. This was the person's, because the man had less of a drive and was wondering if it was because of testosterone, which is why I go back to making sure you have a really good healthcare provider to get your blood panels and to get these, like, you know, my hormones, honey, to quote Fried Green Tomatoes, them hormones, honey. Definitely, I'm like, am I in perimenopausal? Like, has it jacked with my hormones? Yeah, like my hormones are different. It messed with my periods. You can go back and see that video if your periods have been messed with because of GLP-1 medication. Go back in my playlist and go look that up because I talk about it. My menstrual cycle definitely changed, which affected my hormones. But a new life of being accepted was one of the other points that I thought was so fascinating. And I've talked about this in a lot of other videos too, of the door used to literally, figuratively and literally get slammed in my face way more than it does now. People literally hold the door for me now. I'm like, oh, thank you. And I had remembered after college, I gained over 100 pounds after college. And I remember being like, I'm not cute anymore. No one would hold the door for, like, everyone held the door for me in college. I was this cute little bouncy flouncy thing. And then when I gained all of that weight, over 100 pounds, nobody held the door for me. And someone in one of my videos, and if this was you, bless you, because they said this over like a year and a half ago, and I really appreciated it. It was around 6 months into my journey, and was like, maybe they're holding the door for you is because your attitude is different, and it has nothing to do with your body. I was gobsmacked. I'm like, maybe that's part of it, is my aura is different. It's not the way that it was. I physically look different, but internally I'm different. And so there's I go back to there's always an accounting with emotions, always. And I don't like to use superlatives, but always being accepted and being visible. People see me now. I used to be invisible being fat. People would not even pay me any mind. In conversations, I went to a business conference recently. It was mainly dudes that were there. I was a part of conversations. Normally people don't want to have conversations. Like before, like nobody really, and this picture looks crazy, by the way. I do look a little cuckoo-doodle-doo. It wasn't like, I was pissed about my weight. And the before picture. But now people want to have conversations and I'm visible, whereas before I was not. Is that because of my internal changes or external or both? I don't know, but I do know that there is a new life that I feel of being accepted. In the article, they talked about how a woman went on the airplane and was sitting next to the window seat, and the gentleman next to her was like, thank God you're not a big person. And she just lost 60 pounds. And she's like, A, what a jerky thing to say, but B, first she was like so excited that she's like, you think I'm a small person? But then was like, oh my gosh, boo on you, boo hiss. But it's also true. Like there's these things of new life of being accepted. A new study just came out that more than 50% of people accept people on GLP-1 medications. I'm like, oh, thank you. Do you want a sticker for that, of accepting people for a genetic disease of a chronic obesity management, of that obesity is a disease and that there has to be management with it, or for this obese I have to have a management with it? And so anyways, I found it fascinating, but only 50% of Americans accept people on GLP-1 medications. I found that fascinating. Bottom line is though, whether people know or don't know you're on GLP-1, which I didn't tell my family at the beginning. My family didn't know until I was on Good Morning America. I'm like, oh, by the way, I'm gonna be on Good Morning America for Mounjaro. So check me out tomorrow morning. Like that's how I told my friends and family I was on GLP-1 medication. I had not told anybody. I told the internet. I was here on YouTube, but I was like, no one's gonna watch these little videos. And then now like there's thousands of an army of counts and countesses, which just blows my mind. And I love you guys so much. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you. But it goes on to talk about processing with the therapist of being visible and accepted. For me, I've had to walk through that too, of like, why can't people just like me for me? And why is it because there has been an accounting of that and a reconciliation that I've had to do internally to provide me with more peace. Alcohol. They're testing now with GLP-1 medication a decrease in alcohol. People not having as much alcohol and treating it for alcoholism disease, talking about diseases, alcoholism as a disease, and then also drug addiction. And so with that, you can see that there's the addiction is going down, of how that would also change for people with marriages and relationships. If that's changing, there's brain changes that happen with this. I've said it before and I'll say it again. My business, I'm a video marketing strategist. And so my business takes me out recently. It's taken me out to Vegas several times, and I've gotten to meet y'all for one of those visits for an awesome get together. And if you were there, I love you. And so being in Vegas, being around like slot machines and gambling, I used to love to gamble. I used to love penny slots, honey. And I haven't gambled at all. My husband's like, not once. And I'm like, I've been, what is it, 3 or 4 times now in the past year? And I'm like, no, I don't. No, I'd rather save I actually rather invest that into my 401k or into the S&P 500. Like, let's do some investing with that. I've said it before, and I'll keep harping on it, is I'm going to live a lot longer. So I'm like, we need to fix our retirement plan. Like, that is like tunnel vision on that. Of we've really been looking at our finances of like, oh my, I'm going to be living longer. You need to start investing a little bit differently with my strategy. I'd rather do that than gamble. You see what I'm saying? And so I can see how that would relate. Similar feeling of that dopamine rush, that there's the dopamine changes that happen with food, of not having those dopamine hits because I'm not eating as much, but also when I do eat yummy, yummy things, it doesn't feel the same. We talked about this after Christmas and after Thanksgiving. That used to be like, that was my Super Bowl, Christmas and Thanksgiving, eating all these yummy foods. And I don't feel the same way that I do about Thanksgiving and Christmas. In some ways, I kind of wish I did, but I don't get that dopamine rush that I used to get with food that I do now. Can you guys relate? Tell me in the like, I am fascinated to read the comment section on this video. Now, if you don't know, now you know. I cannot read long paragraphs. You have to put a return or like a period dot and then hit return, or else I'm not gonna be able to read it. I can get probably past the first 2 sentences, but when people write me long paragraphs, unless it is broken up into short sentences, like or bullet points, I will not read it. So now you know, you get to know me better because you care. Write in bullet points and I will read it. It's something with my brain. I don't know if I'm partially dyslexic. We have dyslexia in my family and genetics. I'm like, is that me? Like, I cannot. So I want to hear, I'm like fascinated to hear all y'all's comments on this New York Times piece, because it's such Zepbound news and Wegovy news. And if you're on Ozempic or Mounjaro, or if you're on a compound semaglutide or Tirzepatide, is changing in relationships. For sure, my friendships have changed. For sure. For sure. I went out with one of my awesome friends this weekend, and I was like, we could have sat. We took our kids out together, and our kids love to play together, so we're doing play date. And I was like, they had a gym at where we were, and I was like, I'm gonna need to go work out while we're there. I would love to talk to you, but I'm gonna need to talk to you while I'm on the treadmill. And like, that's how my relationships have changed. If people don't want to do that, I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna go do that somewhere else then. Like, come with me or don't, but like, I need to get my steps in. Like, I gotta get my 10,000 steps in. So I'm just not gonna sit on a couch for an hour. You know what I mean? And I'm not gonna go to coffee. And that's what I think with these going back to the original study that I had talked about, about the increase, more likely to increase divorce and more likely to increase separation with marriages from the bariatric study. We're still learning for GLP-1 medication. We're still finding these things out. But in that large-scale study trial in 2024 with diabetes, obesity, and metabolism, that it did increase the physicality of relationships, that I've changed so much. I'm not the same person internally and externally. Friendships have changed, and I talked about this in my previous video about the emotional changes that come from not having food as my best friend. And so what does that mean? And then how do I live out this healthy lifestyle of like, oh, I like to walk 2 to 6 miles in a day. I really like to do that. Walking 10,000 steps is 5 miles a day. Like, that kind of blows my mind. That blows my mind that I'm doing that. And so my partner has also started to work out more. And so it's something that has brought us actually together, is that he's doing his physical thing. I'm lifting, I'm moving. Last night we came back we went out to Mission Barbecue, and I was like, I need to go lift right as we got home. I was like, you're going to need to have to take care of our son. I've got to lift today. And at that point, it was like 8 o'clock at night, maybe like 7:45. I'm like, I gotta go lift. I've got to. I'm sorry. I will pick you up late. But if I didn't have a partner who was supporting me, I could see how that would create a lot of friction of like, oh, the article talked about this. The particular person was swimming and how it would annoy their partner of like, why are you gonna go ride your Peloton? Why are you gonna go swimming? Does it annoy your partner doing that? And I could see how that would create friction of like, I'm changing my life here. Can you please support me on that? I'm also paying thousands of dollars a year for this medication. I want to get the most bang for my buck for it and the most health benefits for it. I could see how that would create some problems. So anyways, sound off in the comments, always in a loving, kind, kindness wins here at Countess of Shopping. I'm curious. And I think I know the answer. Some people have told me, they've told behind closed doors of, yeah, there's been changes in my relationships and partners. And so this video hopefully will help encourage you to help, always in my videos, I want you to walk away being encouraged or motivated. If anything, if you feel some sort of friction, I think maybe this is your sign then to go find a therapist or somebody to talk to, right? Like you don't have to sit in an unhealthy feeling of that. Like for me, having someone who is trained literally to process emotions is helpful. At my kids' school, they call it the feelings teacher. So get yourself a feelings teacher. It's part of my Avengers team. Avengers Assemble. It's one of my components in addition to my healthcare provider, dietitian, lifting coach. Now I have a stylist on board. I'm like, I don't know what to wear now that I've lost all this weight. Like, assemble your team. Avengers Assemble. Assemble what you need to best support you in your health journey. And for everybody, that's going to be different, I think. For me, there's some things. I also wanted to link down below many of you guys asked about my sneakers. I don't have crazy expensive sneakers. I'm obsessed with them though. These are some of them. I'll link them. They're on my Amazon list. But I literally just put them up. They're slip-ons. I don't have to tie these. I got them for my husband. He said the men's ones are just as fabulous as the ladies' ones. I got them for my kid. My kid loves them, except when they play kickball because they kick off of his feet. So if you're kicking, I almost said a showgirl. What's that called? Where they kick in New York City? A rockette. Dang, that joke was bad, man. I gotta work on my jokes. We'll work on it for next video. But all that to say, my favorite sneakers are down below. If you want to walk, I always have my sneakers on during the day. Or if you're at an office type setting, you can slip them on and then put your dress shoes back on easily without having to tie them. It is amazing. Highly recommend. That is linked down below on my Amazon shopping list. I will also link down below my free Zepbound tracker, my free meal plan, my free encouragement group, a ton of free stuff. And then my Valentine's Day things, if you feel so inclined, if you do choose to shop the link below, it's an affiliate link, which means I make a very small commission at no cost to you. But I have all my Valentine's Day stuff is linked down below. I'm kind of obsessed with the shirt. Isn't it so cute? I'm like, happy Valentine's Day. And there's a new thing called Amazon Haul. I've linked some of those things down below too. It's like a competitor of like Temu and Shein and things like that are, like I got Valentine's Day stickers and placemats and stuff like that down there too. So, and if you're watching this and it's near Easter, I'll have my Easter shop. Like it's always, I'm the Countess of Shopping after all. Hello, I'm testing stuff for you guys. My sweet friends, your question of the day is, what are you doing today to move you closer to your goal? And your emoji of the day is lipstick. Lipstick, because we are talking and we're moving. No, I don't have any, I like when I see the little lipstick emoji, it makes me smile. And that people are like, why do you do emoji of the day? It helps me to get to know you better because I care. And I will also pray over you. If you don't believe in prayer, uplift you in positive thoughts. So today's emoji of the day is lipstick, lipstick, lipstick. I love you guys so super much. Click the like button, click subscribe. It blows my mind, by the way, how many of y'all are not subscribed? You can see on the thing, it has a little icon. Oh, I wanted to share with our community members of the day. I am so excited. Our YouTube's done this new thing of where you can see all of your community people. Angie's one, Kimberly's one, Peter's one, Tracy's ones, Joanne's one. Let me go over, there's new ones and they're rotating it faster. So I've been taking screenshots as it. So if you didn't hear your name, trust and believe, I take screenshots so I don't forget to say who's the other ones. Violet, Carmel Queen, Nikki, Angie, I think I already said that one in another day. Holly, Sherry, Anna, Martha, Tracy. Yeah, like literally, I'm like so obsessed with you guys. I feel like Mariah Carey. Why you so obsessed with me? I'm so obsessed with you guys. You guys are amazing. Like literally it was blowing my mind. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Let me see if there's anybody else. I don't want to miss anybody. Karma, Cecilia, Jolene, which I love your name, Jolene. Jean, Karen. Is there one more? I've been a couple days behind on these, so forgive me. I think that's it. If your name didn't get called, you keep it's for people who do engagement. So that's why I'm like, I love you guys so much. Okay, my sweet friends, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. I'm Candace with Shopping. Count my blessings because life is delicious. Love you. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day. Tomorrow's video is going to be amazing. Bye, guys. Love ya.